Welcome to the W2W Review. I am the Oakland Knight, and joining me, as always, is my partner in crime, Raider Pirate. What's going on, Pirate?
What's going on, Raider Nation?
All right, Raider Nation, we're getting ready to enter training camp in about a week, and there's a lot of interesting stories going on out there. And we found one very interesting article by one Paul Gutierrez from ESPN. He used to cover the Raiders for CSN, I believe, and he put out an article that was very interesting on the offense and defensive side of the ball and the starters. We're a team that's on the rise, and we're a team that's got a lot of these positions filled. And we're going to jump into it and look at it today. So, Pirate, what you got for us today?
Yeah, all right. Well, so Paul Gutierrez basically posted up an article talking about, training camp is opening July 29th at the Marriott in Napa, California. And he's just kind of looking at the starters. And for the first time, I think probably since our Super Bowl team, we're kind of entering into the season with almost no question marks, at least among the starters. So he kind of breaks it down, and we'll look at it position by position. And again, this is not about depth, and it's not about, who's going to back him up. These are just the projected starters. These guys may change over the course of the season, but let's go ahead and take a look at it, and we'll just give a quick, whether we agree or kind of disagree with his selections. He's got Derek Carr as the starting quarterback. Carr's 53 touchdown passes through his first two seasons trail only Dan Marino in NFL history, and his 698 completions in his first 2 years are the most of any quarterback in the NFL. So what do you think about the quarterback position?
I think we got the quarterback position on lock, man. We talk about it a lot. Derek Carr is the man. He has all the signs, all the things that are, whether it's statistics or just in his body language and his maturity, that lets us know that he is our future. So the quarterback position is definitely locked down, hands down. I mean, he's second to Dan Marino in numbers. I mean, that says it all.
Yeah, and what you like is the fact that, again, not only does he throw touchdowns? He's second to only Dan Marino. And that's a pretty big, from 53 to 68. There's a little bit of a margin there. But what I really like is the completions. It shows that he can throw the ball short, but he can also open it up, throw the ball deep, and he knows how to get in the end zone. So, again, I think we are set, like we talked about yesterday, in a few ways at the quarterback position. At the running back position, he has Latavius Murray. And he talks about Murray going to the Pro Bowl, 1,066 yards in 2015, and him wanting to go back. What are your thoughts on Latavius Murray as the starter?
Yeah, no, Murray as a starter, he's very intriguing. I believe that he has the skill set. I mean, I know there's a lot of question marks around him right now, but, he had over 1,000 yards last year, and he wasn't used properly. We talk about it a lot. So as long as they use him correctly, they keep him out of the shotgun as much as possible. They have to use him as a decoy in that setup, but, pretty much run him out of the eye, straight running back formation, and I think that Latavius Murray still has a chance to make some good numbers and be a solid starter. It's going to be a two-back system either way.
Yeah, it may even be more than a two-back system. I mean, again, this is a position where it's not like 1995, 97, 99, where you've got a guy like Emmitt Smith back there that's going to carry the ball 30 or 40 times. I think Murray brings something to the table in terms of his speed and his size. But again, like we said, he was really in the wrong type of a system. Now with these big guys up front, just knocking people out of the way, I think he's going to have more success getting from A to B. So 1,066 yards, in my opinion, is, it's all right. That's not to say that it's not an accomplishment for him or for running backs that we've had in the past. But, I just kind of look at it like, God, I wish he would be more in the 1,200, 1,300 range. Fullback Jameis Olawale, obviously Marcel Reese suspended for the first few games of the season here. What do you think about Jameis?
I love Jermaine Olawale. I believe that he's a great complement to Marcel Reese, and I think he's a great replacement to Marcel Reese. He's bigger, but he also carries a lot of the same skill sets. He has good feet. He can run routes. He can run the football. He can catch out of the backfield. I mean, he has a lot of the same tools. He's just more of a bigger frame. So we're not going to lose anything there. And once we get Marcel Reese back, we'll have a two-headed monster there. And that's, once again, we got depth to go along with it. We're great at fullback.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because I don't think we're going to be able to carry two fullbacks this year, just because of the things that we talked about. So much at the different types, at the different positions, I should say. You know, you look at the receivers, the quarterbacks, even offensive linemen, defensive linemen. There's just a lot of potential there, where you're probably looking at the fullback position and saying, well, if Jameis can do what Marcel can do, maybe they just go ahead and keep him. He's probably going to be cheaper. But again, this is a position where we've got a lot of talent, and so it's going to be interesting to see, how Jameis does over those first 4 weeks and how that impacts Marcel Reese once he's eligible again and on the roster. At receiver, Michael Crabtree and Amari Cooper. Crabtree, 85 catches and 9 touchdowns, right? Those are career highs, or they tied his career highs. And he got the new 4-year contract. So, is he going to be motivated this season? Is he going to kind of take a back seat? I don't think so. I think a lot of this talent, kind of coming up is going to push him, and I think he's driven to succeed. Amari Cooper, 10 drops, were the second most in the NFL, but obviously he's the go-to guy. He's the game breaker. What do you think about the wide receiver position just at those two spots?
I think that's going to turn out to be one of our biggest strengths this season. I mean, Michael Crabtree, you talked about his numbers, but I mean, this guy is a veteran. He runs great routes. He has great hands. He could be a possession guy, and he even has some ability to stretch the field when people are not expecting him to. And you take that with his route running and great hands, he's a threat. And then as far as Amari Cooper, I know he was second in drops last season, but I mean, let's face it, he had somewhat of a rough rookie season, but he showed so much potential. He showed that he could run routes. He has quick moves. He has, I want to say good hands, but then it kind of contradict myself with the drop passes, but he, these defenders got in his head last year, and he was obviously really shy and very timid. I don't see that, and I think he has a little bit more swagger this year, and it's going to show up. It reminds me a lot of Jerry Rice. I'm not comparing him to Jerry Rice. I'm just talking his start reminds me of Jerry Rice. This guy has all the tools. Watch out for Amari Cooper.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, I think people had the same opinion of Jerry Rice. Like, oh my God, why did we reach on this guy, number one? And, he's just dropping balls with hands that size and the ability. Why is this guy dropping balls? And look what he turned out to be. Clive Walford at tight end. A lot of talk about tight ends after we dropped our tight end special. The Raiders posted something out. CSN posted something out. So a couple of different people are talking about Clive Walford at this point. And also we got a lot of great comments in our section, some confusion, but mostly good comments. Again, the ATV accident, he had 29 catches, 329 yards, 3 touchdowns. Obviously, I don't think either Lee Smith or Michael Rivera is going to challenge him. I think it's his job to win, but I think he's also ultra talented. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Clive Walford, I believe, is the hands-down favorite here. I mean, you got to look at his size, his speed, his ability to block and run routes. I mean, he's the obvious answer. And I know there was a lot of confusion in the last time we talked about Clive Walford, but that's essentially because we haven't seen enough of him yet. We've seen him in flashes. We believe in his potential, and we know that he doesn't have certain issues, but he did last season. So we're just excited to see this big tight end, running up the seam this season. At least I know I am.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, we talked a little bit about that last episode, so people could go back and rewatch that episode to see what we think about, or maybe it was 2 episodes ago, what we think about Clive Walford and the tight ends in general. That leads us to left tackle Donald Penn, re-signed a deal, which was great. We got him for a decent price. And he's got 140 consecutive games, so he's durable. This is a guy that just doesn't get hurt. And it's the 3rd longest streak among active tackles in the league. What do you think about Donald Penn?
I think Donald Penn's great, and I think, kudos to Reggie McKenzie once again for playing the market correctly, not jumping and biting and spending too much for his talent and his services right away. He let him feel the market, got him at the right price. And the untold statistic with Donald Penn is that he loves Derek Carr with all his heart. And so it's good for Derek and good for Donald when you got a left tackle that just he wants to protect him mainly because he loves him, not just because it's his job. That's going to bode well for us moving forward.
Absolutely. The beast, the big ticket, as Gutierrez calls him. And that's what we should call him too, the big ticket. That's his new name, the big ticket. Even though he's just saying it was a big ticket free agent acquisition, I like the name, the big ticket, right? He says he may project out to left tackle, but for right now, he's one of the best. He's one of the top 5 blocking guards in the last couple of years. This guy's going to come in and he's going to change things. What do you think about Kelechi Osimelli?
Osimelli is awesome, man. I know that we kind of possibly brought him in to be our left tackle of the future, but having Penn locked up for 2 more years, it gives us a chance to maybe find someone else too. So I'm looking for Osimelli to come in and be exactly what I saw on tape when he was in Baltimore, and that is the road grader, just opening up these holes for these running backs. And I don't care which running back it is. You see this guy just throwing people back and on their backs. It's exactly what you want to see from your guard. So Osimelli is the big ticket, and he's going to be the big reason why our running game gets revived this season.
Absolutely. The middle of this line is just incredible as you get to this point. Rodney Hudson, the professor, the guy that understands angles, the guy that knows where everybody's supposed to be, what the defense is trying to do. Derek Carr's second set of eyes. He missed 3 games last year, but obviously an incredible pass blocker, incredible run blocker. I think he started the transformation of this line. I think when we brought in Donald Penn and then we went ahead and brought in Rodney Hudson, drafting of Gabe Jackson, and now the final piece, like we said, with Osimelli. But what a guy to have in the middle of this field. Rodney Hudson, your thoughts?
No, Rodney Hudson proved his worth last season. It was our big off-season addition last season, and I think it's going to be he's going to be the anchor, as always. We saw the difference when he's in there and when he's not in there. The chemistry between him and Carr in year 1 was outstanding, so just imagine what it's going to be in year 2. So, once again, this middle of this line is scary, and this is why they got us ranked the number 2 line in the league already.
Absolutely. At right guard, Gabe Jackson, the mauler. So we've got the big ticket, the professor, and the mauler coming in. Jackson's making the switch from left guard to right guard. Do you think that that's going to affect his play, or do you think that it's going to be a massive upgrade over what we had at right guard last season?
No, I agree with you. It's going to be a massive upgrade. And the guy's an athlete. This guy came in as a rookie and held it down on the left side and has been holding it down on the left side since he's entered the league. So moving him to right, sure, there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve, but he's already started in OTAs and mini camps. He's got all of training camp. I believe the transition will be just fine. And once again, we just upgraded on the right side. The middle of this line is going to open up holes, and this is where we like to run. So I'm excited, especially to see a guy like Murrey with size and speed out of the eye hitting the middle of this offensive line and taking off.
Absolutely. And Menelik Watson, will he beat out Austin Howard coming back from the Achilles? Only time will tell. What are your thoughts about Menelik Watson at right tackle?
Menelik's a beast. I've been supporting this guy since day one. This guy's an ex-boxer. He's got great hands. The only question mark over Watson is his health. So as long as he's healthy, I think he does beat out Howard. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys, so that's going to wrap up the offensive side of things. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we're going to take a look at this defense. So stay tuned.
Carpets is celebrating the holidays with a huge inventory clearance sale. We have the best prices and guaranteed installation. Why would you buy anywhere else? Whether you're looking for laminate, vinyl, carpet, tile, or wood, we have it all. Save up to 50% on selected items. Room size rugs, only $69. Visit Carpets at one of our 6 Bay Area locations or call us at 1-800-355-4MMM.
All right, welcome back, Raider Nation, to the second half of our show. Now we're going to dive in and take a look at this defense. It's something that me and Pirate have been excited about all offseason. So this ought to be a fun segment. Pirate, what do we got?
All right. Well, the way that Gutierrez breaks it out, he has, defensive end, defensive tackles, and then he's got his other defensive end. So he's putting Khalil Mack at defensive end as opposed to outside linebacker, which I think is probably fairly accurate. But let's go ahead and start it off with Mario Edwards Jr. on one side. The neck injury, we're not exactly sure what's going on with that. So he had 2.5 sacks in 14 games last year, but lots of production in terms of pushing the pocket, creating some penetration from the inside. And let's remember, Khalil Mack started getting to the quarterback when there was pressure applied up the middle. So with the additions of Mack on one side and Bruce Irvin, they're still putting Mario Edwards Jr. out there in the base. What are your thoughts on Mario Edwards?
No, I love Mario Edwards Jr. We talked a lot about him this offseason. And, now that he's got the clearance, as long as he stays cleared and is able to get on the field, there's a difference between having outside speed and having inside speed. So the combination of what he does on the run game, as well as getting to the passer up the middle, paid huge dividends and paved the road for Khalil Mack to just dominate towards the back half of the season. So I'm excited to see Mario Edwards return. All
right, the big cat, Dan Williams. He started 15 games in his first season, and basically he had about 59 tackles, a career high, which included 34 solo stops. What's your thoughts on the big cat, Dan Williams?
Big Dan Williams, he's kind of the prototype of what we're talking about on this defense. He could do the 3-4-4-3, so he can go over the nose or he could set off in the gap. And he's going to be the big difference in the middle of how he's plugging up, especially that middle, to free up these linebackers. Big Dan Williams was a great addition last year as well.
Yeah, he's a powerful guy. I think a little more powerful than Justin Ellis, who comes in at the nose tackle position, run stuffing jelly, right? Which is right. sounds like an oxymoron there. He missed some games due to injury, but he's fairly solid there as well. This is another great pick, a later pick that Reggie sort of hit on, a guy that you put into the middle of that defense on rundowns. What are your thoughts on Justin Jelly Ellis?
I love Justin Jelly Ellis. If you go back to his rookie season, he was a little nicked up last year, and he's trying to figure out this defense as well. But this is a 300-plus pound man, but this guy is athletic. Okay, this guy can move. If you go back and watch his rookie tape, he's got a motor to him for being such a big guy. So we get him fired up in the middle too. That's just going to make more tackles for guys like Mack and Irvin.
Absolutely. Khalil Mack. Okay, so they're putting him out here at defensive end. Obviously, all of these guys are adjustable, like we've talked about in the past. You can line these guys up in so many different positions. But for right now, last year, he was consensus All-Pro at both outside linebacker and defensive end. First time that's ever been done. But Gutierrez says they're expecting bigger things from Mack this season. Do you think that he challenges Watt for Defensive Player of the Year this year? I mean, he was close last year, but do you think he's able to make that transition with the new guys that they have coming in to be able to sustain that at the end of the season?
He's definitely going to be a lot closer, right? And I think early on, this defense is now set up the way that the coaches want it, Jack and Ken want it. So he's going to have a better chance out the gate, second year inside the system. And, the players that we've added are just going to help Khalil Mack grow. And this guy is the sky's the limit. We haven't even seen his ceiling yet. I do believe he challenges Watt, and he's going to do it early. I think he's going to make a statement this year. Watch out, Mack truck's coming.
All right. And I think one reason why he's probably going to get a little bit more pressure is our outside linebacker, Bruce Irvin, who was brought in from Seattle. And he's bringing 22 sacks in 4 years with him from Seattle. And again, you pointed this out in the very beginning when we first brought him over. He was asked really to be more of a passive linebacker in Seattle's scheme. But the Raiders are going to ask him to go ahead and like Tarver used to say, activate a little bit more. What are your thoughts on Bruce Irvin becoming more of a pass rusher and helping out Khalil Mack?
I'm really excited for this guy to get on the field. And I'm just going to make it real simple. And this, after we picked him up and studying him, the thing that stuck out the most was the fact that all signs said he was a passing type outside linebacker / defensive end. They didn't rush him in the passer, and this guy still got almost 7 sacks last season.
Yeah.
So I mean, for him to able to tally up 7 sacks when they consider him more of a pass guy, protecting the pass in the flat. Hey, wait till they unleash this guy on the quarterback every down. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, middle linebacker, Benn Heeney, basically, again, he took over, shared some time with Malcolm Smith in the middle last year, but he took over for Lofton, who was just, running around in the mud out there last year. But Gutierrez says that he is the best guy to quarterback the middle of that defense. One thing that we're going to be bringing up on Friday is how Jack Del Rio in Minnesota basically played that cover 2 middle linebacker, or the single high middle linebacker, and how he was asked to be extremely athletic. And that's one thing that I think Benn Heeney is. I think Benn Heeney is kind of in that mold of a Jack Del Rio. And we're going to see some big things this year. A lot of people are saying this is the area where we messed up, but that the coaches may have looked at it and said, hey, this guy can play. We think this guy can play. So what are your thoughts on Benn Heeney? Is it our major weakness on the defense?
Outside looking in right away, you thought possibly yes. But breaking down the tape and just understanding the situation, Benn Heeney came in. The thing with Benn Heeney was his measurables. Oh, he's a little too short. He needs to put on some weight. We can't do anything too much about the height, but this guy's football acumen is off the charts. And he was sitting behind Curtis Lofton, like you said, he was running in the mud. And once they unleashed this guy, he was all over the field. So his benefit of being able to be all over the field at all times, sideline to sideline, up the middle, he plays with intensity, his athleticism. He reminds me a lot of maybe a Brian Urlacher, who was a little undersized but made great plays. And we heard it ourselves in a conference call with Reggie McKenzie and Jack Del Rio. They're really high on this guy. So
yeah, he's going to start.
Another guy to keep an eye on. Yeah, he's a star.
Yeah, they said that. Well, they said that he's going to start. Like Reggie said, that he's our starter. So that should be interesting. Our other outside linebacker, Malcolm Smith, I think had a fantastic season last year. Bringing him over 2.5 sacks, 38 tackles. I'm sorry. That was Benn Heeney's numbers. They're saying Malcolm Smith is keeping the seat warm for Aldon Smith until he comes back. But again, I think he had an incredible season last year. He led the Raiders with 122 tackles last season. So what are your thoughts on Malcolm Smith? Does he get supplanted as soon as Aldon Smith comes back? Or does Aldon Smith really just become sort of a situational guy outside of coming in to spell Bruce Irvin?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Pirate, but I believe Malcolm Smith's going to be on the weak side like he was last year. So I don't think it's Aldon Smith will play the strong side where Khalil Mack was playing. And I think that's another topic for another day. But Malcolm Smith in general is he showed all the skills. He's getting sacks. He was causing fumbles. He was covering the flats well. And this guy is an all-around guy. Plus, he's going to be Benn Heeney's rotational piece in the middle. So Malcolm Smith is a huge part of what we're going to be doing on defense, and he's a playmaker. So I'm excited to have Malcolm Smith. He's a big part of what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. He's extremely scheme versatile. So, like you said, he can play middle. He can play all 3 positions, really. So I think that's why I think they're looking at it and saying, okay, Bruce Irvin is going to be playing, at one position. Heeney will be playing in the middle. Malcolm Smith will be sort of that kind of jack of all trades who will move along the line. And I think that's why Gutierrez is basically saying, hey, he's just this is the weakest link in this particular defense, whether on the strong side or the weak side. But the fact of the matter is that Malcolm Smith can play any of those positions. And again, last year, 122 tackles. That's not something to, look on lightly. So at our cornerback position, David Amerson and Sean Smith. Finally, we got size. We got guys that can play in this particular defense. Amerson basically was waived by Washington. Again, he said there were some maturity issues. He was playing a lot of video games until late at night, wasn't taking things seriously, came to Oakland, got surrounded by Hall of Famers pretty much, and realized, hey, maybe I should take this thing seriously. And then Sean Smith, basically, this is another outside linebacker. He's just a big guy, and he's capable of being a shutdown type guy. So again, if you look at the 4 interceptions from Emerson, the 5 interceptions last year from Smith, I think those numbers are going to be improved on this year because of the pass rush that we talked about earlier. But what do you think about these 2 big, tall, long guys that I think fit our system a little bit better than our press man cover guys that we've been trying to sort of force into that system?
Well, we'll definitely keep the specs for tomorrow night's show, but let's just make one thing clear. We've upgraded our secondary, something we needed to do right out the gate. Emerson coming in his second year. I mean, like I said, he came in week 3, came off the bench and played well and just improved week in and week out. And both these guys, I'm going to put them in both in the same category at one time. Both these guys are exactly the prototype of what Ken Norton's looking for on the outside. It's what Seattle had on the outside. They're big, they're physical, they're great zone guys. And like you mentioned, that pass rush is going to open things up. The pass rush is key when you play top-down zone like that. So we're not going to get beat over the top. We're going to have guys that could tackle, and they're big and physical up front from playing top-down. I mean, watch our secondary improve vastly. It's going to be our most improved position this season.
All right, and then we've got our free safety and our strong safety here, and Gutierrez basically has Reggie Nelson playing the free, which I think makes sense. Keep him back there. He's a top 60 player on the NFL Network. He had 8 interceptions with the Bengals. And again, I think that's because they create a lot of pressure. That Bengal defense creates a lot of pressure from the middle, from the outsides. Very disruptive. Same type of defense or same type of philosophy that we're going to have, an attacking style defense. So he fits in really well back there to be able to cover that, middle third of the field. And then Carl Joseph coming off of the knee injury. Again, this is a guy that can just make plays. So what do you think about Reggie Nelson and Carl Joseph at the strong and the free safety? And do you think that that's the lineup?
Yeah, I believe it fits their skill sets year one. I believe that Carl Joseph could play either one, but I think Reggie Nelson fits better at free safety. So I look at this in the only better combination we could have put with Carl Joseph would have been bringing Charles Woodson back for another year, but obviously he retired. So adding Reggie Nelson could be the next best thing. I mean, the guy's got a ton of experience. He's got experience with Jack, so there's communication there and an understanding of what they can do. And he's a ball hawk too, and he understands what offenses are doing, what offenses are trying to do. So he could also teach that to Carlos Joseph, and it's just going to make Joseph a better player faster. So yeah, I think that the sky's the limit for Carlos Joseph, and I believe even though Reggie Nelson's on the back end of his career, the sky's the limit for our backfield, and it's going to look great. I think all this moving forward sets the precedence of what we are going to be seeing in 2016 defensively.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, only time will tell. But this looks like a much better secondary altogether. Obviously, we've got Sebastian Janikowski kicking and Marquette King punting, so I think we've pretty much got it covered there in terms of special teams. John Conda will be back as our long snapper. But yeah, I mean that pretty much wraps it up. And again, as you go through that list, I mean, wow, where I don't see a glaring weakness on the entire list.
No, not at all. And it's just keep in mind, guys, this is going to be one exciting season. We'd like to thank you for tuning in today. And just remember, guys, you guys can find us on Facebook at The Will to Win, Twitter at The Will to Win, Instagram at The Will to Win, and you can email us anytime you want to at thew2w@gmail.com. That is thew2w@gmail.com. Make sure you hit us up on Facebook. That's how you keep up to date to everything that's The Will to Win. You guys have a great day. Stay Raider strong for the Oakland Knight and the Pirate. We're out of here. Peace.
Take care, Raider Nation. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.